maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So today's session is going to be about website and their content and what essentially goes in a website. So before we get started, as you all know, I like to start with questions so that maybe you can answer my questions and the interaction can get started. So how many of you have worked on a website content till date? Have you created a website on your own, or have you created any website content on your own so far? Yeah, I think I went on talking without unmuting myself, so now maybe all of you are able to hear me. So today's session is about websites and their content. And I see some answers here. So Rujita is saying that she has worked on policy documents and disclaimers, and then Kanchan says that yes, I have created my own blog. Prashant says he has not worked on any web content so far. So today's session is to get you started with what is a website and how do we work with websites and so on. So it will probably introduce you to the idea of website and then website designing and website hosting. So let's get started because we have got limited time. So let's go ahead to the next slide. I have got limited slides with me today, so about 14 slides today. And of course, I have opened some web pages which I would also like to show you during this particular session as we are discussing those websites. And all the points that I have listed on the page here on my slide, so all those points have already been put into a 3-page PDF file handout, which you can download at the end of this session if you want to. So I'll be giving you the link when this session is over. So through the chat window, you can copy paste that and download that file directly online. So you need not take down notes, but then feel free to do so if you want. So let's go ahead to our next slide here. So what is really a website? So what we are going to look at in today's session. So what is a website? Some common features of a website. Then we'll talk about how it works, how it is designed, and we'll talk about what is a sitemap, what is a writer's role in developing a website, a popular website, some of the popular website options and tools, and maybe a little bit about what is SEO or search engine optimization. So feel free to ask questions in between, or then we can of course answer all your questions at the end of the session. So what is really a website? So first and foremost, a website is much more than a paper or a brochure. And this is what people used to think a website is when websites were new. So we used to think that, oh, it's a brochure online. So if I put some information on my website, then people can read that information so they come to know about my business. and then that's how they can contact me and I can reach them afterwards. But then websites have moved away from that, and of course, as internet has matured, so all of you know that we talk about the different versions of the World Wide Web. So the first version was, of course, the Web 1.0, which was never called as Web 1.0 though. And the second version was called as the Web 2.0. So we had World Wide Web, then Web 2.0, and now we are into Web 3.0, which is the third version of World Wide Web. So all these versions, they are different in terms of interactivity. They are different in terms of power. They are different in terms of the capability that one needs to have to create a website and put content on site and so on. So what is a website? So more than a brochure, I would say today it's probably your office which is online. So a lot of things which were not happening earlier through websites are happening today. So for example, through my website or Technowrites website, we chat with our students. So the moment anybody goes to our website, a chat window opens and then we start chatting with that person. And if that person is a potential customer, then we start answering questions right there. So the engagement starts, as soon as somebody visits our website. So there is of course, it's a cost-effective method of disseminating information because I pay a few thousand rupees for my website and it works 24/7 and people can download information. It's a place where we generate a lot of business inquiries, and this is done through a collaboration with our Google advertising program. So we advertise a lot on Google, and then our Google advertisements will ultimately point you to our website. And when you reach a website, then of course there is a chat window through which we start interacting with you. It's a place in cyberspace to meet and chat, but then it's more than that. So the websites have developed and have gone really beyond, becoming a simple company website. So some of the common elements which are there on the website. So of course we know that websites will have pages, and if the pages are not there, then of course you can't see anything on the site. So that's the most fundamental component, I would say, of a website. And then these pages will probably have images inside them. They'll have hyperlinks going to other pages or other websites. In a few cases, those images may not just be static images, but they could also be animations. Nowadays, it's very common to have audios on a website. So you go to that page and the audio starts playing or the music starts playing, or even to have a video on your website. Now, of course, you have got some slightly more advanced elements. So you have got things like registration pages where people can register, or inquiry forms where they can put their name, their phone number, and then they can write their question and the question reaches the website owner or the organization. You may even have a visitor counter which says that you are the nth visitor to this website, and that sort of tells you, how many visitors have been there before and how many people have seen that earlier. So website will of course also have a lot of dynamic components that interact with the users or the viewers of the website, and based on that the site pages may change. So you may have menu items which fall down, or which sort of hide themselves or unhide themselves, and through that the user is actually guided to navigate through the site. So it may have elements like chats, or you may even allow your users to put in comments, and of course these comments can be moderated. So a nasty comment did not go onto your website. You may have emails integrated with website. You may have mailing lists. So there are some websites who create mailing lists using some registration pages, and then when you send a message, it automatically goes to all the people who have registered through that mailing list. Or then there could be components which will generate a print-friendly page. So for example, if you go to a particular site and you want to print that page, then you'll realize that there would be other elements which will get printed. So there could be menu on the left or menu on the top, and you don't really want it, and it eats up into your printing space or margin. So some websites will have that additional code which will automatically generate a print-friendly page when you try to print it. Now we are getting into some advanced features of websites. So there are websites with responsive design, And responsive design is where the website changes its own design depending on the device that you are using to browse through the website. And of course, Technowrites website is a good example of this. Technowrites website is built on a responsive design. So if you are looking at the website using, let's say, a laptop or a desktop, then you'll see it in the landscape mode. But then if you open that website on a mobile, then you'll see it on a portrait mode. And then the design changes itself depending on the type of device. So it's like an intelligent template is being used. But then there's nothing special really about responsive design today. A lot of websites do have responsive designs, and it's a standard built-in part of the design itself. So again, depending on what information is there on the website and what's the objective of the website, what is that you are trying to do, you may also have some additional components which will be integrated. Now, they are not really a part of website, they are additional functionality, but then your website works with them. So for example, there could be a shopping cart. So I think all of us have got the experience of buying things on sites like Amazon.com or Flipkart.com or Jabong and so on, or then making online payments. So the payment gateway is integrated on your website. So the moment somebody tries to make a payment, it opens a different window. And through that window, you'll probably be able to log into your net banking account, or maybe you can use your card and so on. Now, this is altogether different code, and that code doesn't really get embedded onto your website. It's just integrated with that. So for that, of course, there is a special functionality and professional skills are required. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Website can also have links to social media. So you may have link to your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page and so on and so forth. And then that can help you to interact. So let's go ahead to the next slide here. So how does it all work? So we of course know that you just have to open the page and then the page appears, or then you just have to click on a link and the new link appears either in the next page or in the same page. And of course, all this is sort of coded into your website. But then how does it really work? So first of all, for a website to work properly, it should have a website address. So just like you have an address for your office or for your home, you have an address for the website, and this address is your domain name or a URL, so universal resource locator. So that URL sort of identifies, where is your website, and the URL could be something like technowrites.com or technowrites.in if it is an Indian site, or technowrites.biz if it is a business site, and so on. So a number of site extensions are available today. But the domain name registration is very important, because even without the domain name, people will be able to see your website, but then that address is going to be pretty long, right? So I mean, it will not be a user-friendly one, and it definitely does not create a brand. Thankfully, registering domain name has become very cheap today, and one can register the domain name for 1 year for as less as 400 or 500 rupees, and depending on what option uh, you are using. Yeah, thanks for that pointer. I thought only I'm able to see the chat window. Anyway, so depending on what you are using, these things will change a little bit. Now the pages and the components are actually stored in a hard disk on the server, and then this server address actually is something that that is mapped to your domain name. So when you take a domain name, then it's like that domain name identifies the name of the server, and then that server has got your files stored in a particular location in the hard disk, and those files are opened and then they are shared. But then to share them, you need the software. So it's not just the hardware that you need to have, you also need to have a software called as a web server. Now, typically, whenever you are going for web hosting, a web server software is there by default. Now, there are a number of web server software applications available. Since this session is not about web servers, I'll probably not comment on that anymore. But then without this hardware as well as the software, your site cannot work. And what your software does is, whenever there is a request from a user to open a particular address or a page, then the server starts sending that information. Now, this information is sent extremely systematically so that this information can be useful and it can be properly displayed. So there is a protocol for that, or a standard for sending or receiving and displaying that information. And that protocol is called as the HTTP protocol, which is a hypertext transmission protocol. So, and that's why a number of times when we write the website address, we say HTTP colon, and then we say slash, and then we write the address. So what we are essentially saying is, my website works with the HTTP protocol. So please open it with HTTP protocol. So remember, there are many other servers which work with other protocols also, and they can also be opened through your browser. So for example, instead of using HTTP in your browser, you may also be able to use a FTP or a file transfer protocol in your browser. So just remember that websites work through HTTP protocol, and nowadays people prefer the secured HTTP protocol. So in that case, you just add a S in front of it. So then it should be HTTPS protocol, so which is a secured protocol. Now, when your device receives the content, that content is rendered and then it is displayed. Or then if you have clicked a download link, then maybe that content or that file will be downloaded and saved onto the devices. Now, active components will work across the data link that is created between the server and your device, and then it can enhance the user experience and interaction. So maybe the animations will happen, the forms will happen, the user types in the form and clicks a button and it gets submitted and so on, or then a mail gets triggered, or maybe a chat window opens and so on. So all these different things will happen, and maybe again the payment gateway functionality will take it to a different level, and that's a much more advanced level of technology. But this is simply how a website works. So let's look at the next slide. So there are different types of websites today. So earlier we used to think that, oh, website is, as I said, just a page where information is content. But now people know that website is not just a page, but then there are different ways of looking at a website, and depending on what your objective is, you may actually build a different type of website. So for example, there could be a website of a company, so a company or a document specific website, so something like technowrites.com, which is a company specific site. Or then you may have a portal. So portal has got large collection of data, or maybe a database of companies providing their services and something like that. So maybe yellow pages, you can just imagine maybe yellow pages put online or something like that. Or then you could have a website which is a blog. Now, a blog is essentially a one-to-many communication, as I have mentioned on the slide. However, when we say one, this one could be an individual. So it could be a blog of a person, an individual human being. It could also be blog of a company, or it could be a blog of a particular product of that company, or then it could be a blog related to a particular type of topic or domain, or it could be a blog of a particular community also. So it could be a community blog, a company blog, individual blog, and so on. But blog is essentially a one-to-many kind of communication. Or then a website could also be a wiki. And I think that the best example would, of course, be Wikipedia. Incidentally, Wikipedia is also a responsive website, and you should really try to open Wikipedia through mobile, and it looks just as effective as you open it when you open it through a laptop or a desktop. So a wiki is a many-to-many communication, which is a huge repository of information and which keeps on getting updated. And the specialty of wiki is it may have thousands or millions of pages, and typically they are not managed by one individual or person. So it's a many-to-many kind of communication. In addition to that, of course, we have got e-commerce sites where you can go and buy stuff, or you may also have got content aggregator or news sites. So these sites by themselves are pulling content from other places and they're displaying there, and then you look at all that information. So this is where I'll probably go to so this is the Technowrites website, and please tell me if you are able to see my screen. Are you able to see my company website screen, or you are still able to see the slide. So are you able to see the company website? So this is a Technowrites website that you can see here. And herein again, you can see a number of components. So you can see this is the chat window that opens. Now, even if I change the page, you'll again see the chat window appearing there. And it will automatically come up, and that's how we start interacting with people who come to our site. And then this person is of course my colleague, and she'll start chatting with you, asking you what is that you are looking at, and so on. You'll see the various links that we have put here. So there is a shopping cart on Technowright site, and that's because many of our students, when they buy our courses, they like to make payments through the cart. So for that, the cart functionality is integrated, and through that you can actually make the online payment as well. So the payment gateway has also been integrated. Now this is a page which is a responsive page. So if I change the page layout, let me see if I can do that. All right. So maybe you can see it here. So here you can see that the page has automatically changed its own orientation. So that's what I mean by responsive site. Now, ideally, this banner was horizontal, so you should have seen a horizontal scroll here. But then here you simply see that the page has got changed by itself. So this is what we mean by responsive design, that the page changes itself. Now, in addition to that, there are of course many other sites. So we already talked about them. So India Mart is a type of site where you can buy a number of services. So you can go enter your mobile number, and then you can say that, oh, I'm looking for so and so type of services or products. Now, India Mart is mostly not in the consumer space, so it's mostly in industrial space. I'm sure we all know about Flipkart and Amazon. So this is, of course, Amazon.com. So where you can go, you can log in, create your own account, and then you can look for stuff. So this is an e-commerce site. This is again, I'd probably not call it as e-commerce because you're not buying anything here and paying here, but then it's probably a cataloging site where you can find information about companies. This is a wiki page, so you can go to Wikipedia, and then again you can try this. This is also a page which is intelligent. This is my blog. So that's something that if you want to read it, this is a good one. I had written this open letter to Steve Jobs just a couple of days after he passed away. So this is my personal blog, and this was created using Blogspot. Incidentally, if you have got an account on Google, then you can go ahead and create your own blog in a few minutes. So you don't really need to register separately. So Blogspot is Google property now. So using your Gmail ID, you may be able to quickly go there. And I hope you are all able to see this content. Now here I'm using the Google website designer. So we'll probably talk a little bit about that later. So let's go back to our presentation for now. So how's the site designed? And that's where we are going to look at the process. So first of all, the site objectives are defined. So why are you trying to have a site? If you simply want to upload your resume, you probably don't need to have a site designer. That's going to be expensive. You can maybe simply do that on LinkedIn, create a LinkedIn profile and share that link. So if you want to just keep your information as a download, once again you did not have a separate domain. So first of all, before you start working on a website, try to define your site objective. So what is that you are trying to do? What is that you want to give to your user through your site as a medium? Now, depending on your objectives, you are going to identify all the components which have to be put into your site, and that may have some bearing on the technology that you are going to choose or the server space that you are going to choose. So there are some components which will work on a Windows server, They may not really work on a Linux server hosting. We'll talk a little bit about that later. So once your site objectives are defined, you prepare your site map, which is sort of a layout of your site, and then a site structure is created. Now, once that is done, then of course you go ahead and create your content. Now, when I say content, I'm talking about text, I'm talking about audio, video, animations. Maybe there are some PDF files that you want to give as downloads or whatever. So I'm talking about all sorts of contents in here. Once that is done, your pages are designed, and these pages will be populated with your content. So you put in your text there, you put in your audios, and then you create a test site. So on this test site, all your pages will be there, and this will of course be hidden from the real life users. So only you and maybe your colleagues or your friends can test the site, check if all the links are working properly, check if the text is getting aligned properly when you resize the window, and so on. Once your testing is done, of course, your pages are going to be published on the actual website. So it may simply be copying them from one folder and putting them to other folder. Or then if you are using a powerful tool, it may just give you a button saying publish, and then it will take care of the rest. So once your website is up and running, you'll probably get into site maintenance. And if you want to go in for some advanced functionality like payment gateway, maybe you can think about integrating that as well. Now, something like payment gateway, I would recommend that you don't try it all by yourself. So hire a professional person to do that. It's extremely critical. The integration is extremely critical. What is a sitemap? A sitemap is an organization of the content of the site. It defines the number of pages and the content on each page, and it also identifies the links between those pages, and it also defines the links to external pages and the resources. So preparing a sitemap is one of the most important step in preparing the website. And based on the sitemap, also you come to know how much of work will be needed to do this website. So in a few cases, let's say your pages may go up by 5 or 10%. So I had identified that my site will have 20 pages, and while I actually work on it, I realized that, oh gosh, I need maybe 3 pages more, and that's normal. But then essentially it defines your scope of work and how exactly you are going to do it, and so on. If there is not enough clarity at the sitemap level, probably some confusion is going to follow later on. So when you are actually going to work on your site, at that time there will be definitely some confusion. So a number of times we prepare a sitemap, and then we have worked with the companies who provide website designing as a service. So when they develop a sitemap for their client, they also get a sign off for it. So they ask the client to sign in that and say that yes, this sitemap has been approved. So afterwards, if there are changes, they can be very clear about that. Or then you don't have subjective opinions coming into picture there. So what is a writer's role in all this? So you prepare your site objectives. Obviously, you talk to the entire team. You talk to a customer if you are doing this for a customer, or maybe your own company, and try to identify. So you can play a lead role as a writer and a communicator in preparing or identifying the site objectives, as well as preparing the site map. Now the sitemap may just look like a Windows folder with pages below one another, or then it may look like rectangles with the names written in those. So each rectangle sort of corresponds to a page, and that will probably give you a graphical idea of how the site is going to how it's going to look like. Now there could be some very complex sites. So for example, sites of companies like let's say Amazon or Microsoft or Cisco and so on. So where they could actually be generating page in the runtime. So there you cannot define the sitemap to the last level. But yes, you do have a structure in mind, and you know what pages will get added where when the user runs a particular type of query and so on. So once your sitemap is signed off, you go ahead and prepare your text content. If required, you also play a role or work with your team to develop the audios and videos. Review all the content, and of course you optimize the content. So after you have put in your text, you have prepared your text. Now somebody, maybe a website designer, is going to copy that and paste it into the website web page. Once it is pasted, you may realize that after inserting the image, the text is going to the next line, or it's not wrapping properly, or then maybe some amount of adjustments could be needed. So you may just rewrite a part of it just to make sure it accommodates in the space given to it, and so on. And of course, we also do what is called as search engine optimization. I'll talk a little bit about that later. I assume that we are going fine. I think everybody is able to hear me. I don't see any questions in the question answer box. So I'll just go ahead. Once we finish the pages, maybe then we'll take the questions one by one. So there are a number of services available if you want to create a website. So first of all, domain registration has to be done. And for this, service is available through many vendors. I prefer to go with GoDaddy for doing domain registration. It's a matter of times and they really do it well. They also give you some very attractive packages. So you can do domain registration and then you can register multiple domains at the same time. So for example, let's say I can register technowrites.com, and at the same time I may also register technowrites.org and technowrites.biz and technowrites.in, and I'll make sure that all those 4 domains point to the same website address. So even if you type technowrites.com, it will go to that page. Even if you type technowrites.in, it will redirect you to technowrites.com page. So just make sure that you take all the domains that you want. Extremely important from branding perspective if you are creating a site for your company. So think about all possible domains that you need to go in for. The domain search is free online. So through GoDaddy or many other sites, I think if you just want to search whether a domain exists or not, for that you don't have to pay, and then it can tell you whether a domain is available. So even before you actually go ahead and create your site, I think the first step that you should go in for is registering your domain. And once you host a site and so on, then you can sort of point that domain to look at that particular server where your files are stored. But domain registration is probably the earliest step of designing a website. After that, of course, you go in for a hosting service. You go in for a multitude of other services. So, for example, maybe an email service. So, just to give you an example, so we use an email ID which has got technowrites.com in it. So, I don't use makaran.pandit@gmail.com, which is my personal ID. So, for my company business, I of course use mac@technowrites.com, and it gives a very professional image. So when you are going for that kind of service, maybe you want to go in for an integrated package. So in an integrated package, you'll get a domain registration, you'll get the hosting, you'll get the email, you'll get a site builder. You can get everything together. If your site is complex, and I'd probably say technowrites.com is a complex site because it had got a lot of components. So we had payment gateway, we had shopping cart, we had active chat, we have mailing list, and so on. So that's when we decided that we'll not do a trial and error because this is a critical part for our business. And we had given the entire thing as an outsource, contract to a vendor. And then we are using their service for designing the entire thing. Of course, the content is written by our team, but then the actual designing and everything is done by somebody else. Now, depending on what other value-added services you want, you may go in for something additional. So you can go in for a chat service, a mailing list service, a shopping cart, a payment gateway. You may want to go in for Google advertising or additional service or a search engine optimization or social media optimization or social media integration. So all these would be additional on top of the regular ones. Now coming to some of the popular site building tools, and this is probably an interesting slide in this presentation today. So if you want to create blog, you can simply go ahead and use Blogger or Blogspot. WordPress will also allow you to create a blog. And if you want to use what is called as WordPress plugins, then you will definitely have to go in for a paid domain name as well as paid hosting. You can use site builders. So depending on, if you are buying your site package on Google, so Google has got Google Sites. GoDaddy has got a built-in site builder, and it gives you for business sites, their site builder will give you, let's say, more than 100 options or ready-made templates that you can use. So a site builder actually has got different types of pages with different color schemes, and you can customize them. But then try to look at all the options that you have available and try to go for the closest possible match, and then maybe do the customization instead of changing everything of the site depending on your requirement. And it could be a good idea to maybe use a couple of designs, try out the website, not publish it first, test it, and once you are sure about that, then maybe go ahead and make it public. So the Google site builder and the GoDaddy site builder, they are so simple that you actually don't need any programmer's help. You can pretty much build your website on your own using these site builders. You can use some content management system tools like WordPress or Drupal or Joomla, and using that you can build your website. There would be a number of site hosting service providers who will give you space in your domain where you can install WordPress or Drupal in a matter of minutes, and then you can go ahead and customize them. So working with WordPress is very simple. There are lots and lots of videos available on YouTube that can help you. But then it will become complicated at some point of time. So when you talk about integrating plugins and changing parameters for those plugins or updating the plugins and so on, that's where it may become a little bit tricky. But WordPress, of course, is one of the most popular tool used for creating websites as well as blogs. The most powerful in terms of programming and the flexibility, I think, is Drupal, because it allows you to do a lot of programming along with your standard pages. Depending on what else you want, so you may go in for a chat application. So there is Zopim chat available or Zoho chat available, or then the service that we use is live chat. So live chat is a service that we use, which means we actually pay them on a monthly basis, and then they chat for us, and whatever chat has happened, they send us the link and then query through email. If you want to send a corporate email, so you can use a mailing application. So Google Groups can be used to create a group of people, or then MailChimp, of course, is one of the most popular services for sending mails. So when you try to send mails to, let's say, a few hundred users, and if you are using your Google mailbox, Google itself may object, saying that you are sending same mail to 500 people, so it seems you are misusing Google Mails. So in that case, it could be a good idea to go in for a mass mailing application like MailChimp. So if you want to integrate a payment gateway, which means people can pay online, they can buy things online, so then you'll have to go in for one of the payment gateways mentioned here. Tech Process is what Technowrites uses, but then of course you have got PayUmoney, you have got PayUbiz, you have got Atom, and we have used Atom payment gateway for the STC India website very recently, which we redesigned. PayPal is of course available, and PayPal is the internationally popular way of getting payments. However, I would not recommend PayPal because PayPal is the international gateway, and there are some issues with currency conversion. So PayPal may need you to get your bank account certified for receiving money in dollars. So there could be some complications related to that. And once again, I'll mention this, that if you are going to go in for a payment gateway integration, I suggest you better not do trial and error yourself. Go in for a company which has got demonstrable skills in doing that. So they can do it much more faster and much more accurately than yours. You don't want any chances of the payments to getting into some other account, or the entire thing going for a toss while the transaction is happening. So you don't want to take risk of any such glitches. So better get professional help for payment gateway integration. If you want to check how many people are coming to your website and what's their background and what time of day they are checking it, what device they are using, from where are they coming? Are they coming through a Google search? Are they coming from some other site? Or are they coming from advertisement and so on? Then you'll need to run analytics on your website. And for that, you are going to need a Google Analytics account. Now, this is where it will become fairly complicated and technical. So I'll just restrict myself here by saying that Google Analytics is an extremely powerful tool, and there could be a systematic course of, let's say, at least a couple of months, which will be based on Google Analytics and Google advertisement. So there are some really powerful options, and they take quite some time to learn. Fortunately, you may find a lot of videos online that can explain to you how Google Analytics works, or you may even find a Google SEO guide, I think, which is a free download, and it also explains, or Google itself has got a lot of content that explains how to work with Google Analytics as well as Google advertising. Google Analytics, to the best of my understanding, is not charged. I think that is free, but then there is some amount of some few lines of code that has to be integrated on your website, and only after you integrate that code on your site that Google starts getting reports and Google starts getting the data. So if you turn on Google Analytics and you integrate that code right now, you will start getting realistic data maybe after a few days or a few weeks. So it's not something that will start, giving you results instantaneously. But over a period of time, it just works, works too good. It's fantastic. It's one of the most powerful things that I've seen. Also, very user-friendly one. So if you have got some time to spare, I suggest you spend it in learning about Google Analytics and search engine optimization. The most important thing that you are going to need for your site is a hosting space. And I think I talked about it earlier where I said that there will be disk space available in a server, which is a hardware. And then that server will be connected to the web server to the internet. Now you can get multiple options for hosting spaces. So you can get a hosting space from GoDaddy or Google or HostGator or Site5 or AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. This is when I'll probably again go to the website that we were looking at, the pages. So this is the HostGator page, and I hope you are able to see the page. Can you just confirm to me quickly that you are able to see it? All right. So this is the HostGator site. So you can go there, and then there are a number of hosting plans here, and then choose the plan that you want. So Windows hosting will be a little bit more expensive than a Linux hosting package, and so on. But then make sure that you understand what is that you really want, or then maybe get into a chat with their expert who will tell you based on some questions that they'll ask you as though what is that you want. You can create multiple server spaces for yourself. So maybe I can create a server space for my website, and I'll create another server space for hosting a learning management system or Moodle, or maybe I'll create another one for something else, and so on. So HostGator gives you a dynamic control panel using which you can manage your account, your spaces, and so on. And this is where it of course gets a little bit technical. So but yes, of course HostGator is available. Site5 is one more such service provider. So if you go to Site5, you can buy spaces there as well. And of course GoDaddy is the most user friendly one, and they have an office I think in Hyderabad in India, and they give you very good support online, and they give you multiple options. So you can just go here, search for your domain name, then choose a package from there, and then you can get on with your website in a few hours. So your site could be hours up within a few hours without the help of any professional. Just make sure that you understand the options that you are choosing, or then talk to somebody from GoDaddy, and they'll be able to help you with that. So a number of options available. This is Site5, and that's GoDaddy. And of course, Google also gives you multiple options, and I think I mentioned about that earlier. So moving back to our presentation. So some of the advanced concepts about websites. So there is something called a search engine optimization. So you have built a site, which simply means that you have opened a shop or you have started an office. Now that doesn't mean people will come into your office. They'll dream about your office that, oh, in so and so building on so and so floor, Makarand started an office, so let me pay a visit to him and see what he's doing. So you'll obviously have to advertise, and one of the best ways of pulling crowd is advertising. And I think I mentioned about Google advertising earlier, and this is becoming so specialized now that digital marketing by itself has got number of courses, and digital marketing by itself is a career in its own. So you may want to learn more about it. But then if you want to attract visitors based on searches, so for that Google has to know that your site exists. And for that your site will have to follow certain rules. So these rules make it easy for the Google web crawlers to go to your site and then search the information on your site so that Google starts indexing your site. So whenever somebody searches for that, then it will start showing your site name in the results. So for this, there are certain rules, and following those rules and continuously adjusting to those changes in those rules and so on, that's what is called as search engine optimization, which is optimizing your design so that the search engine can work with your site and give it as a link when somebody searches for it. Remember the basic guideline. The basic guideline is if your website is not coming in the first 10 search results, then more than 99% of people searching for it are going to miss it. So a lot of people just go through, what Google shows in the first page of the search, or max to max maybe the second one. So very few people go to other pages. You'll probably need get a lot of data about this somewhere else, so let me not get into it. A lot of people think that if they put the search keywords in their website, then good search keywords is going to get them good traffic, or a good number of search keywords will get them good traffic. But let me tell you that Google looks for search keyword density, and if it thinks that you are deliberately trying to push the density up artificially, it may actually ignore your website or blacklist your website and not show that link at all. So for example, let's say you want to, you have created a page which talks about football, and you know that there are probably, thousands or millions of sites out there which talk about football. So how will you attract, or the searches to your page? So you say that, oh, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write the word football 100 times on my page. So which means my search keyword density is 100%. So all the words on that page is football, right? And you think that now because my search keyword density is the highest, now from tomorrow or maybe from today itself, Google will start showing my page instead of showing other pages when it comes to football. Let me tell you, your page may actually get blacklisted, because Google crawlers thinks that you are trying to push the search results up by increasing the search keyword density. In fact, it is so intelligent that it may even take football and soccer as synonyms, and it may think, oh, that increases your search keyword density. So typically your search keyword density should be 6% or less. The moment it goes above 8%, trust me, the search engines are going to ignore you. It's not just Google, there are many other search engines. So once you have created your site, you have to, submit your site to those multitude of search engines. There are some meta search engines also which use different algorithms at the same time. And one meta search engine may search through multiple search engines at one point of time and so on. So you may have to do, what is called as a directory submission for all this to work. And that's a fairly complex topic. So maybe some other time, so when we'll conduct a session only on search engine optimization. Now, based on the number of visitors to your site, based on how many people are coming to your site and so on, your site is given a website rating and your site is given a rank. Now, there are a number of sites which give you tools, but then I think Alexa is one of the more popular ones. So Alexa can, straight away show you the rank of your website, and you can try and do that maybe after this session. So go to alexa.com and then put a website there and see what number Alexa is giving. In fact, it may also give you some sort of number saying that the possible business, worth of this website as an asset is so many dollars. So it may do something like that. I think I already talked about Google Analytics. So what you do is go to Google Analytics, you create your account. In your account, you register your website as a property. Then you put the Google Analytics code on the respective pages of your website. And that's when Google will start collecting the data. And after a few days, you will start seeing the data. And then this data will tell you how well your site is being accessed by people. Remember, analytics by itself may not be very important. You'll have to supplement that with Google advertising also. So that's when it will tell you that, oh, so and so policy that you have taken for advertising has resulted into so much of additional traffic to your website and so on. So it's a simple rule. I think everybody is aware of it. But then let me mention it once again. If you want to control anything, you should be able to measure it. So Google Analytics is the way of measuring your site. Otherwise, you just know it is there. That's it. But then you have no clue how many people are actually going there, right? So Google Analytics does the complete measurement of your sites in terms of visitors, which country in the world they come from, which state in India they come from, what type of device they are using. So we recently realized that a lot of our students are searching our website through mobiles and tablets and not through the legacy devices like desktop and laptops. So, or then how much of time is a new user spending on your site, or what is the bounce rate of your site? So, I may have just introduced a few technical words there. If you want to search for them, please go ahead. That will probably help you to learn further. So that brings me to the end of this entire session. So you see a link there, and what I'll do is I'll copy paste this link in the chat window. I look forward to your feedback on this presentation. I see that I am doing a recording of this session. I'll need to check whether the recording quality is good. If it turns out to be really good, I'll definitely edit it and host it on the